You weren't overlooked. You were erased on purpose. They never forgot you. They ignored you, deliberately, repeatedly, like your voice was too loud for their quiet little lies. They welcomed fools with flattery. They kissed traitors with silk. But when it came to you, their smiles broke like glass. You saw through it, didn't you? All that velvet talk, all those polished words. Every friend a mirror, reflecting nothing but masks. You reached out with truth. They recoiled like it burned, because it did. They didn't want fire. They wanted puppets, strings dressed in silk, not storms dressed in scars. You weren't denied. You were kept out, locked out by bloodlines, chained out by rules made to cage lions. While they toasted champagne, you choked on silence. While they crowned cowards, you stitched your wounds shut. Alone, their throne. It was never meant for you. Not because you couldn't sit on it, but because they feared what you'd become if you ever did. Let that settle in your bones. Let it carve itself into your spine. They never feared your weakness. They feared your awakening. Because you were never meant to bow. You were built to burn, and still you waited. You waited while your name was forgotten, while your kindness was mocked, while they dressed your absence as if it made them holy. But waiting sharpened you. The silence turned you into something else. Not a prince, not a soldier. Something worse, something necessary. You stopped asking. You stopped knocking. You stopped smiling back. And in that moment, the crown began to tremble. Because it knew. It always knew. The one they left outside was building a fire that would melt their kingdom. The silence didn't brag you. It built a monster with purpose. They thought the quiet would kill you. They thought if no one clapped, you'd forget how to rise. But you weren't waiting for applause. You were listening to the grind of your own bones rebuilding, to the cold whisper of steel sharpening under your skin. In the dark, you learned to see without light, to feel every betrayal like a blade, and forge armor from the pain. Every night alone, blueprint, every bruise, a battle plan. They exiled you to destroy you, but it was exile that made you unstoppable. You didn't train in their temples. You trained in the ash, in hunger, in fury. They wore crowns passed down like jewelry. You carved yours from the silence. While they were celebrating victory, you were studying loss, like a surgeon studies wounds before he cuts. You counted how many steps it took from shadow to throne, measured the distance between power and patience. You didn't pray. You prepared. They never saw you coming, because they never bothered to look into the places where real kings are made. Not in light, but in dark. Not in comfort, but in chaos. They thought you were retreating, but you were rehearsing. Rehearsing the fire in your chest. Rehearsing how to burn a castle with nothing but your name. Each insult you swallowed was fuel. Each door slammed shut was another matchstick. They made you a ghost, so you learned to haunt. They made you invisible, so you became unforgettable. You kept your voice low, your face still, your rage silent. But inside, a furnace, a scream waiting to be shaped into thunder. And when the time came, you didn't knock, you didn't ask. You arrived like a war they forgot to prepare for. They forged a shadow, but the shadow came back with fire in its teeth. The world isn't ruled by the kind. It's ruled by the kind that burned. You learned it the hard way. Smiles, they buy you time, but fire, it buys you thrones. They taught you to play nice, to shake hands with liars, to bow before those too weak to stand alone. But the truth, you saw it too clearly. Empires aren't built on kindness. They're forged in fire. Every ruler they praised had blood behind the crown. Every great name in their books had ashes behind the glory. And you were the only one still clean, still whole, still angry. But anger became your kingdom's blueprint. You don't win with permission. You take with precision. They taught you silence. You replied with a storm. They gave you exile. You answered with fire. You stopped asking for respect. You started commanding it. With your scars, with your silence, with the way your shadow made theirs shrink. They smiled. Right before they stabbed, they smiled, while they poisoned your name. And now, you smile too. But your smile has teeth, and your kindness has a timer. You gave them 1,000 chances. They gave you one reason. Now the flame they mocked is the one you wear like a crown. Let them paint you as villain. Let them twist the truth. Legends aren't born from approval. They're born from the ashes of those who tried to stop you. You don't inherit power. You ignite it. They never feared your strength. They feared you realizing you didn't need their acceptance to become unstoppable. And now you have. Now you know that empires don't remember the gentle. They remember the ones who walked through fire and dragged kingdoms behind them. They thought you begged to belong. You chose instead to build an empire they couldn't survive. They kept feeding your fire until it became the storm that swallowed their sky. You didn't just survive. You transformed, not quietly, not gently, but with fury sharpened into focus. What they burned, you rebuilt with flame. What they shattered, you reforged in silence. Their mockery was oxygen. Their betrayal was spark. Their absence, the matchstick that lit the fuse. They thought fire would destroy you, but fire doesn't destroy fire. It awakens it. You stopped bleeding. You started burning. Every scar they gave you became lightning in your chest. You rose without their blessing. You came without their welcome. And now they watch in horror as the storm they laughed at watches them back. You aren't a man anymore. Your momentum, your vengeance with a heartbeat. Your shadow covers their sun. Your silence shakes their ground. Their walls weren't built for this. Their peace wasn't forged for you. They called you angry. Now they call you unstoppable. Let them run. Let them hide behind tradition. Let them kneel to the ruins they built. Because you became the reckoning written between every lie they ever told. You're not returning to take what's yours. You're returning to take what they feared you'd reach. This isn't revenge. It's correction. It's balance, paid in thunder. They made you the villain? Good. Villains rewrite the ending because heroes were never invited to the table. And when the ashes settle, when their towers fall like cards, when their voices crack like dry leaves, they'll remember not the kindness you gave, not the patience you showed, but the storm you became when they gave you nothing. They set a fire in your soul. Now it rains ash on their empire. When you rise from fire, even kings forget how to breathe. Now they hear you, not because they want to, but because they have to. You don't speak like them, you command. Your voice, it echoes through their bones like war drums beneath silk halls. They once rolled their eyes, now they bow their heads. Not in respect, in survival. Because when you speak, thrones crack, legacies shift, and lies don't know where to hide. You became the silence that screams, the whisper that makes rulers kneel. You don't knock on gates anymore. You shatter them. You don't ask for time. You take the moment and make the world wait for you to finish speaking. Every insult they threw now echoes back as thunder. Every name they forgot is now carved into the sky with lightning. You didn't learn diplomacy, you learned precision. Every word, a blade, every pause, a countdown. Let them hide behind ceremony. You are ceremony now. You are the fire that redefines tradition. You didn't adapt to the throne. You made the throne adapt to you. They watch you now. From high towers built on fear, they whisper in corners, count your footsteps like omens, flinch when the wind carries your name, and you smile, not with mercy, with memory, with the knowledge that they never saw you coming, because they never imagined you'd become everything they worshipped and feared. The outcast they ignored now speaks in earthquakes. You're no longer a rebel, no longer a shadow. You are a presence, a force, a name that trembles inside golden halls. And when you speak, not even the crown dares to interrupt, because you earned your voice. In silence, you earned your roar by bleeding in the dark, and now every throne listens, not because you asked them to, but because you made them afraid of what happens when you stop speaking. Power isn't passed down, it's ripped from the hands that fear you'll hold it. You didn't beg for a crown. You weren't chosen by blood. You weren't blessed by their gods. You took it with ash on your hands, with smoke in your lungs, with the roar of every silent scream they forced you to swallow. This wasn't destiny. This was war. You climbed through fire. You crawled through the bones of their beautiful little system. You burned the staircase and built your throne with the ashes of their arrogance. You didn't rise to fit in. You rose to take over. They never saw it coming, because you never came dressed in royalty. You came cloaked in vengeance, crowned in scars, eyes lit with the storm they created. You kicked down the doors, not for revenge, but for reckoning. They gasped, they trembled, but you didn't flinch, because the moment was never theirs. It was always yours, waiting, burning, beating beneath your ribs like a kingdom in chains. And now it bows, not out of love, but out of awe, out of fear, out of the undeniable truth that you, the forsaken, the forgotten, you now wear what they once guarded like gold. The throne doesn't care how you got there, only that you now sit on it, and no one dares to take you down. You don't thank them. You don't forgive them. You stand on marble floors, still stained with the lies they built, and you breathe. For the first time, not as a survivor, but as the storm that outlived everything meant to stop it. Let them call it theft. Let them call you villain. Let them rewrite the story. It doesn't matter anymore. You're not part of the chapter. You're the final page. You didn't inherit this crown. You seized it. And now even time kneels to your rule. They feared your fire. Now they light their torches with it. You didn't just take the throne. You changed what it means to sit on one. This isn't royalty. This is retribution. This is the final form of silence that refused to stay silent. They write songs now, but not about your kindness, not about your mercy, because there wasn't any. You came like a curse, but stayed like a rule. They crowned liars. You crowned reality. You didn't arrive clean. You arrived cracked, scorched, marked by every moment they hoped would end you. You didn't just survive the fire. You became the reason it still burns. Now their children speak your name in awe. Their elders speak it in fear. And both bow. You're not remembered as gentle. You're remembered as truth in its rawest form. Every legend wears a little blood. Yours wears fire like armor. You weren't born chosen. You were made in rejection, tempered in rage, forged in silence, and in the end, you became the crown they swore you'd never touch. The fire they tried to bury now casts shadows over kingdoms. You don't walk like them. You echo. You don't speak like them. You etch your voice into stone. This is how infernos wear crowns. Not with grace, but with gravity. Not with softness, but with scars that tell every chapter they tried to erase. They thought you wanted revenge. You wanted something greater. A place in the bones of time. A legacy no lie could erase. Let them rewrite the past. You now own the future. And if anyone forgets, if anyone dares ask how you got here, let them read the sky. Let them walk the ruins. Let them touch the heat that still rises from the ground where your name was once ash. You were never meant to wear their crown, so you built your own and set the world on fire to make it fit.